Welcome to Marvel Champions Podcast, a podcast about Marvel Champions the card game. I'm your host, Scott, and with me as always, my co-host, Ryan.
What is up, man? I feel like we haven't chatted in a while.
Yeah, it's been a long time. You go away for a little while on vacation, and it's just so lonely. It's like I have to play solo all the time.
Oh, man. It's so terrible to have to play this cooperative game by yourself. Though I feel like that's probably like half the people that actually play this game.
Yeah, I feel like there's a whole like Marvel Champions solo league out there. They've got a podcast. Shout out to those guys. I think it's like Road to Nowhere or something like that. So if you're a solo player, check them out. Or if you play the game 2, 3, or 4 player, that's what I like about this game.
Yeah, though I will say that my overall experience, I don't think I've ever done a 3-player. No, I have. I think overall I like it best at 2-player. Granted, I play it the most at 2-player, so take that for what it is, but I feel it balances time-wise, like how long it takes, as well as like difficulty and just interaction. I think 2-player it really is that sweet spot.
Yeah, I would agree. The 4 players games we played, they just seem long or really long. I think I would like to try a 3-player game with you and another like fairly experienced player.
Yeah, I feel you on that, because I think when we did a 3-player, it was their first time, so we had to go through it with them and everything.
We'll see. Well, speaking of new players, Ryan, I've noticed on the community, it seems like a lot of people are just getting into the game or have been away for a little while, and that got me thinking of like, what kind of advice would I give to somebody getting into the game or maybe getting back into the game? So I wanted to pose that question to you. Maybe chat a little bit about that tonight.
Okay. I am down for that. I think I've got some questions that I've been brewing.
Why don't you ask me one of your questions first?
All right. We've gone through this a couple times where we've introduced new players, and the question always is, what hero do you want to be? And I've seen us do it where we're like, well, this hero is pretty easy, so maybe you should do this one. But we've also done it where we're like, name a hero. If we have them, you can play them. So my question is, how do you go about introducing the hero to a new player?
That's a good question. Probably my like most basic response to that would be pick a hero that you like, or like character. Pick a character that you like, because to me, you have some type of connection to that character in some way. You know, was your favorite one growing up as a kid? You really like them, you like their costume, you like their power, or whatever it may be. But I think it kind of gets you that much more involved and engaged into the game. Even if that like particular hero is really complicated or something, you're going to be assisting them for a majority of their actions and turns for the first little while anyway. So even if it's a quote-unquote complicated or hard character to play, I really don't see it as that big of a deal.
Yeah.
With it being a new player.
Yeah, I think ultimately you just want them to have fun. And if having fun is playing that particular hero, then they should do it. I will say, as a caveat, there are some heroes that they're very turn-intensive, and it may make it a little complicated because you kind of have to really help them. So essentially you're just playing two-handed. And depending on how well they are at, picking up the game, it may be more of a chore than you want, or it could even lead to very inefficient turns, which is okay. I mean, the whole point is they're learning. But
I think that's probably one of the key things there is like getting through a game to where they have that like excitement and that hype. They want to play another game or look into the game more. You know, you'll see people post things like that, like, oh man, I love this game. I want to buy every single character. I want to go full FFG on this thing. And and you just you want them to have that kind of feeling, or come away from the game with that kind of excitement.
Yeah. Now, how would you approach it? Would you introduce whatever hero they choose their precon, or would you create a deck for them?
With a lot of the times that if I'm introducing a new character, I'll go look out at like a pre-built Marble CDB deck. I'll take a look at an aspect or this or that and kind of see what the deck's wanting to do. I may kind of tweak it a little bit, but most of those decks out there are built fairly well, so you'll be able to kind of see what the deck's trying to do and know if that's what you want that person to kind of lean into.
Yeah, I would say there's enough solid cards in majority of the aspects that you can just put in some good cards and that'll be good enough for most case scenarios.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I guess that is a little dependent on how much content somebody has. If you've got from beginning till now, that's definitely applicable. But if you've only got a core box and a couple hero packs and a couple of expansions or campaign boxes,
True.
Then that might look a little different.
True that. Touche.
All right, what else you got, Ryan?
Well, my other question is the natural follow-up to that is, what villain do you do?
Ooh, that one's a good question too, because you don't want to like play a villain where they just like murder you, like go straight Venom Goblin or Ronin.
That'd be fun.
So you would, I don't know. I think thematically play something that they're going to relate to, whether that's their favorite villain or a good matchup to the hero that they picked, or maybe like a thematic thing with the character they picked.
Yeah, you probably don't want to pick like Collector 1 and have them play as Black Widow. That may not be that fun.
No. Or Nebula, that'd be bad.
Or Nebula. Good call. But I think in our most recent experience when we tried to introduce some new people, we just said, what hero do you like and what villains do you like? And you kind of gave them like, we have some Avenger villains, we have X-Men villains, and just kind of tossed those out. And they said Apocalypse. And so that, thankfully, that gives us two options.
Yeah. I think the other thing with that is maybe a little bit of like pseudo choice.
Mm-hmm.
Like telling them, here, I've picked out these two villains. Pick one from these two, right? Because there's so many now. I don't know what the count is. I assume it's up in like the 30s, scenario-wise or something. There's so many to pick through. They can kind of get that kind of freeze and not sure what to decide or pick.
Yeah.
What's that phrase people use in games where they're just kind of stuck thinking about something?
Analysis paralysis?
Yes, that's it. Thanks, Ryan.
You're welcome. I'll be here all week.
Yeah, I just, that's one of the things is you want to make it as easy as possible, right? Take away all those barriers and roadblocks and just get it and play. I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a great way to kind of approach it, is maybe not say, give them a basket and say, pick your favorite one, but kind of say, hey, we're thinking of doing some Avenger theme villains. Some ones we really like is, say, Thanos or Ebony Maw or Crossbones.
Yeah.
And just kind of give them some options and let them figure it out. So it's still, you're just directing their choice, but they're still making that choice.
Yeah, I like that direction.
So the natural follow-up to those two questions and what you just said is, give me a villain or two that you think would be really good for a multiplayer game.
And we're talking anything currently out?
Anything currently out, yeah. Just give me like a one or two heroes and one or two villains that you think would be really good for a new player if you kind of had to funnel them in their choices.
A lot of people like those spider heroes. Me personally, I think a good one is the Sinister Six scenario, because If
Oh.
you have somebody that's really punchy, they can go be punchy. If you got somebody who's a little thwarty, they can focus on the thwart side
Good
of
call.
things.
I like that.
So, you don't have to be as well rounded in that one. If you give them a hero that's very punchy and can't do much. And then I'm trying to think through a couple of boxes here. I think possibly a Sentinel, the first Sentinel.
Okay.
Whatever that one is. Like the official. I think it's called Sentinels. Sentinels.
The X-Men version of Taskmaster.
Yeah. So that one's cool because it kind of has that little bit of scenario thing. You're kind of doing a couple things here, a couple things there. It changes the game state a little bit. Kind of feels a little more story thematic a little bit, but it's not too hard. And anybody who likes X-Men can relate to Sentinels.
Yeah.
And then for maybe an earlier box, I think a Drang is, because it's got some minions. So if you do get somebody who's like, I want to play Thor, you're like, okay, cool, let's beat up on some aliens. Yeah.
I really like your choices. I really like that Sinister Six one because it allows for a lot of punching, like you said, a lot of thwarting, and it's a very recognizable villains. The Spidey's gallery. So I think that's a really solid choice, and I like Sentinels, and I like Drang. I don't know how many people would want to play him, but as a scenario, I think that's a pretty solid one.
See, you make a good point there because there's some of these villains that aren't those like big names. If you had asked me who like Drang was before playing this game, I'd have been like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, I think another good example of that's a really good scenario, but a lot of people may not do it because they just don't know the villains. Is the first Marauders?
Yeah, you're right.
I forgot what the actual name of it is now, but what is it called?
Morlock
Siege. Thank you. I think that's a really great one. It's a little more complex, but you can kind of handle a lot of that until they get the grips. They got like 3 turns to kind of figure it out, but it's a fun scenario. But yeah, people are not. Maybe they'll be like, "Oh, Morlocks, I get that one," but I don't know if I can think of better ones.
So I got a question for you.
Okay.
Keep it on the same topic. Let's just say they had a core box. Which one out of the 3 core scenarios would you recommend for introducing a new player to?
I think if it's not Rhino, probably is the easiest. But I would say Claw's the best overall out of the 3 for any new player. Or a second time player, as it's kind of designed to be. But if you're playing solo, I would say Claw rather than Rhino, because it can be frustrating when he schemes out so easily.
I was going to throw a curveball and say like Rhino, but switch up the encounter set.
That's not a bad idea.
If you didn't like a multiplayer. But Claw is the better hero or villain out of the 2.
Yes, yeah. And I wouldn't recommend Ultron. He's just if you're not a player that's experienced and you just have those core box heroes and cards, he's a little tougher. I feel
he's
like
got a lot of like timing and sequencing. If you're not super comfortable with a lot of that, yeah.
Yeah, because I remember when we first played it, and I was just like, "Oh my goodness, how are you supposed to beat this guy? This is impossible." But now you're looking back, like, yeah, you can totally beat him.
You're right. You're like, Squirrel Girl, Hawkeye, go!
Yes, those are some high quality allies in that early game.
Leadership, yeah.
Yeah, then again, it's leadership.
Yeah, it's leadership.
All right. I like it. Now, what heroes would you recommend?
Okay, so we're talking full collection again.
Yeah, let's do full collection and then do
core
one
box
out of the core box.
Okay.
Unless one of those is in the core box.
Man, that one's tough. If you've got one, feel free to throw it out while I'm thinking.
I think Captain America probably a very solid one because he's really good and he's very simple. And he does the reading, which is very fun for players. And I think he's a great hero for any new player.
All right. This one's gonna be maybe a little controversial, but it's one of my like just favorite go-tos. But I think Black Widow she can seem complicated just kind of at a first pass, but she's pretty basic. But she has a lot of cool like interrupts that get you into that, like, check this out, and I'm gonna do this and stop this, and yeah. I don't know. I find her exciting to play. The comboing to me is what. Come on.
All right, you know what? It's your friends, whatever.
If we go a little deeper into the game, I think
a Wolverine's not too bad.
Yeah, he was the other person I was thinking of.
Yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of strategy because of his health, but that's a pretty simple concept that they get, and it links really well with the simple mechanism of the game of healing and taking damage. So,
and another one that a little bit newer, I think Angel is a pretty simple character. Yeah, he adds like an acceleration icon, sure, but he wants to do stuff with his aerial cards, and he wants to do a lot of it, and he does it really good.
Yeah, I think he's probably better at least as a flip hero compared to Ant-Man and Wasp in that aspect, because Wasp is a different story, but Ant-Man really requires you to like timing your flipping, where I feel like it's a little more forgiving with Angel because his cards have double ability depending on your side.
Yeah, that's a good point. A lot of his cards say do this if this and do this if that.
Yeah. Let me think. What's a middle hero?
I'm having to look them up here.
I wonder, do you think War Machine would be a pretty decent one? I'm not totally sure.
I think he's a straightforward Quicksilver.
Well, there's always Quicksilver.
War Machine, I think maybe he seems a little more complicated with his like ammo counters, but he's really not that complicated.
Nah.
Yeah, I think that one would be all right.
Yeah, all right. Well, so maybe a War Machine. I mean, Spider-Ham's.
I was gonna say Spider-Ham. We gave that to our other brother, and he did a pretty easy deck. We grabbed off the Marvel CDB, and he cleaned up.
Yeah, Spider-Ham's a pretty strong character, so that one's a pretty easy one. Cool. Yeah. Good call on some of these.
Yeah.
All right. So you had some questions before I took over the entire podcast.
Well, I think we kind of answered most of my questions. Just some of those, what would you tell somebody? Here we go. I got one. So I see the question a lot of, I'm getting into the game. What hero should I buy? Right? What kind of advice or guidance would you tell somebody who's looking to maybe purchase like 2 to 3 heroes, and all they have is a core box?
I would guide them to one of the campaign boxes as their purchase, because you're going to get the most content. Villains, heroes, and hero cards.
So finish your thought and then tell me, out of the campaign boxes, which one would you tell them to buy?
Oh, gosh.
Currently that's out.
And
I'll tell you the right answer.
Jeez. Well, number one, I think it really depends on what you like. X-Men, Spider, or Avengers. But if we're just talking about like the quality of the heroes and the villains, I think I know what I'm going to choose. Let me do a quick look over.
Okay.
But that one's a really good one too.
All right. You got to give me your number one, and then you can do an honorable mention.
Okay. So I think my number one... dang it. Shoot. I think my number one will be Sinister Motives.
That is correct, sir.
Oh.
I just think overall that's just the best like out of the box.
Yeah, it's got two really good heroes that play differently. They come with some good cards. You got a solid protection and a solid justice, and an archetype with justice with those shield cards that work with the core box. And the villains are pretty solid. 1, 2, 3, 4. 5's a little tougher, but still a unique experience.
That's a very polite way to put it.
I definitely don't think he's the worst number 5.
No.
I mean, he's tough, but he's very beatable. And then I think my honorable mention is between Mutagenesis or Next Evolution, and I think I would go Next Evolution because I think overall the villains are better in Next Evolution.
It's two really good heroes too,
and good heroes too. Again, bringing in some interesting decks to the table and the introduction of the side schemes, the player side schemes.
I'm so proud of you, buddy. You went 2 for 2.
I won?
You did. You got it.
What did I win for The Price is Right?
A new car.
Dun-dun-dun.
Right. So I guess the disclaimer is this is our opinions. Take it as you will. 2 random dudes on a podcast, but
I mean, they're right, but
right. I mean, they're on the right opinions, but I just think those 2 are really good. And after that, go on theme if you like this or that. I think the Mad Titan Shadow is good because of the Hela scenario. That one's really good.
But you're not a big fan of Adam Warlock, so that's
the heroes to me are the weakness in that box. But I know there's people who love Adam Warlock.
I think most people will say Guardians Most Wanted is probably the lowest of the boxes.
Yeah, and I like the Rise of Red Skull. I think that's a really good box too.
Yeah, I think it's a very solid box.
It's in that upper half for me.
Yep, absolutely.
And Age of Apocalypse is really good.
Yeah,
Mutagenesis minus Sabretooth.
Are we just ranking all of them right now?
I guess. Yeah.
Fair enough. I think that's smart. If you have to pick hero packs, I don't remember all the cards that are in them, but just some fun heroes. I'll do 1 from each cycle. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Actually, let's flip the script. Why don't you tell me 1 from each cycle, and I'll tell you if you're wrong.
Okay. All right. So Cycle 1 technically has Captain America, Miss Marvel, Thor, Black Widow, Doctor Strange, Hulk. Okay. I personally really like Black Widow, but, you got to have the Doctor Strange. You got to play with Doctor Strange at least once.
You're going to go with Doctor Strange?
I mean, he is the best pack out of that. I'm not a big fan of Thor, and I'm not a big fan of Hulk, so
he's
if
the best.
It's not Black Widow, it's... Well... I guess Captain America, technically, I would probably say Captain America if we're doing that whole big cycle 1.
It's a pretty solid cycle.
Yeah.
But to me, it's a competition between Captain America, Miss Marvel, and probably Doctor Strange.
I'd say if we're talking like a brand new player, definitely Captain America would be the number 1. Honorable mention.
I agree.
Maybe a Miss Marvel, maybe a Doctor Strange.
I really like Miss Marvel, but
yeah. All right.
Captain America is a very solid pack in that cycle.
Cycle 2, I think the safe play is Quicksilver.
Ooh, it's a tough one.
That one's tough. Like they're all good. I think Scarlet Witch is one of those where people either like what she does or they don't like what she does.
Yeah. I would personally go with Ant-Man because I think the mechanism's really fun. I think players will really like that.
I would pick Ant-Man if it was me, but I'm trying to be a little more neutral.
Okay.
I know. All right. Cycle 3. Definitely Venom.
Yeah, it's going to be Venom. Agreed. Congratulations.
Yes, I got one right. Finally. And then the special cycle. I would probably go Vision. Shout out to Boom Guy and his love for Vision out at the Winning Hand podcast. Yeah.
I don't know if I can do that. I see your point with that, but I think I'd rather. I'd have to see the hero. I think hero cards are going to be the one for this one.
Oh,
I'd
I'll
have to
give you
look at
that
which
one.
ones.
What like 9 cards in the back of their kit or 10 cards, whatever it is.
Yeah, I'm trying
make
to
one over the other.
Ooh, War Machine comes with leadership and comes with some pretty solid leadership cards, like Command Team. That's the one where you can ready allies. Comes with sneak attack and all those things.
But vision is
cards?
vision.
Yeah, they're cards that come. The additional cards that come with it aren't that great. What does Vision come with? He is protection. Oh, these are pretty solid protection cards. Dang.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Man. Yeah, it might be Vision just because of the cards it comes with. All right, I'll let you have it.
All
Ooh,
right.
champions.
Technically, with how the new defensive rules work, it doesn't work as good as you're playing Vision, because he can't defend if he's in his intangible form.
Oh,
so
yes,
all
yes,
those
yes.
defensive traded cards don't actually work for half of his character.
That is true, but you can still take those cards.
No, yeah, definitely. All right, Cycle 5. I think the safe play there is Spider-Ham with an Iron Heart as an honorable mention. She's just a strong character.
Yeah, I think you could really go with any 3 of those.
Yeah,
or 4 of them.
You could just toss Nova.
You don't like Nova, but
people love Nova, and I don't know why.
He comes with some really good cards, though. Comes with Pitchback.
Yes. We're talking about coming with good cards, but him as Nova, I've never been able to get him to like do all these super fancy turns that I hear people play.
Well, it's because
I guess I'm just playing him wrong.
You're just playing him wrong. That's what it is. You just can't handle him. You got to get good.
It's me. Yeah, I got to get good. All right.
Give me some Mutant Genesis.
The next wave, yeah, we got a lot to pick from. We got a couple extra heroes in this wave. I think Wolverine's the best one. I don't know. I like the X-Men. They're all pretty unique in how they play. So
yeah,
I think that might be a wave that you really got to look at those cards to see if there's something. But we're also getting into a little bit of a reprint.
Yeah.
From this point.
Yeah, I think it really depends on who you like, but I think Cyclops and Wolverine are very solid choices out of those.
Yeah, and Gambit. Gambit's cool. He changes how you play a little bit with thwarting and alter ego.
Yes, unique experience.
All right. Cycle 7, a lot shorter than Cycle 6.
That's true.
My pick's Angel, but I think X-23 and Psylocke are both good character packs too.
Yeah, I agree. I think Angel's the one you pick out of this one. I know some people are probably going to say Deadpool, and he does bring an aspect.
Brings a whole aspect, yeah.
So that does add a whole new flavor to the game. So that might be the better pack overall. But I'm just not necessarily the biggest Deadpool fan. I'd rather get an Angel.
And out of the 3 announced for this current wave, there's only 1 out, so we'll have to wait and see. Nightcrawler's looking pretty good. Jubilee looks like she's going to play a little different. So,
and Iceman is cool.
Yeah, he's the coolest hero in town.
All right. Well, cool. All right. Sorry, I keep thinking of more questions. If a player has to get one of the scenario packs, which one do they get? The options are Wrecking Crew.
Okay.
Goblin. Right? Yeah, I'm not crazy, right? Yeah.
Well, Green Goblin was first, but then Wrecking Crew.
Yep. Yes. Goblin, Wrecking Crew, King. And then you got, what's the other one? The Hood. And then it came out with Mojo Mania. And I think that's it, right?
That's it. So I'm kind of split on these two. To me, there's there's two that rise above. I like Mojo. I think that's the best value. You get 3 solid scenarios, but you also get it where it plays as a mini campaign. And then I think the Green Goblin is just a great pack.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I think I would ultimately say Mojo just because you get 3 really solid villains and it's a mini campaign. And Green Goblin is a really close second. But
I think
that's not to say the other ones aren't bad.
No, yeah, if you're one that is into a really long game and you have friends to play with, Kang's a fun experience.
Yes.
And then people hate on the Hood, but I think it's decent. He introduced a lot of modulars, but that's like his big selling point. If you feel like your encounter sets are kind of stale.
Yeah, and they're fun encounters. There's different variety to them, so it's nice to have that. I think the weakest is obviously Wrecking Crew. It just doesn't bring as much to the game as a whole, unfortunately.
No, yeah. That's one that you're not missing too much. Just play the 4 horsemen and you're almost there.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, I think I might be out of new player questions.
Yeah. Well, if you know people that are new, tell them to listen to this episode and then reach out to us with their questions that they would want to be answered.
And tell us how Scott is wrong about his picks.
That's right. Tell me how all my picks are wrong. I want to hear that.
It's true. It's true.
Yep. And you can let me know how wrong I am at marvelchampionspod@gmail.com. We appreciate everybody listening. And as always, if you want to go from a chump to a champ, listen to the Marvel Champions podcast. Thanks.
Don't buy all the packs at once. It's a lot of money.